I am very happy to come here this evening along with Swami Ranganathananda and a doctor devotee to address this gathering this evening and return back to San Francisco at night for other programs tomorrow. Behind me is a travel of nearly 40 days in Australia, Fiji, Manila, and Japan. Everywhere, great interest in Vedanta, in spiritual life, various sections of people. Just in Manila, I was the guest of the International Rice Research Institute, a very famous institute, the Director General. He arranged a meeting of scientists, and apart from the lecture, questions from various sections, and after questioning, answering, we go to tea, again questions there. Then a dinner, again questions. Tremendous interest, and all positive. All the scientists felt science without spiritual life has no meaning. I was very happy to see this response of a scientific community to the message of spirituality. In Japan also, remarkable response from the public, Japanese and a few Indians, to the great message of Sri Ramakrishna, Vedanta. In Australia, a TV program, All Australia TV program on the subject of spiritual life. Roy Martin Show, it is called. Everybody looks to it. Just 12 minutes. The wonderful response. I could feel the impact of it when I came to the airport to go to Fiji. A young American, hardly 20, 22, came towards me. Excuse me. Yes, I turned. Are you the person who spoke on the television that day? Yes. Oh, it was wonderful, it was wonderful. Saying this, we were flying to Los Angeles. So I could see the receptivity of people to the spiritual message. So today's subject Swamiji has chosen, spiritual life. There is a lot of confusion on the subject of spiritual life, especially among the intellectuals and a large section of the international scientific community. I came to know the presence of this confusion when I was invited to attend a symposium on the definition of health by the World Health Organization. That was organized in Bangalore 2 years ago in the All India Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. Several people belonging to the WHO, World Health Organization, felt the need for including spiritual in the definition of health. When it was formed after the Second World War, they had given a definition which said physical, mental, and social well-being of man is health. That's the definition. They felt conditions in the world are such, the most important aspect of health is spiritual. That must be included there. So somebody brought a resolution at the Geneva conference. It was voted down, largely by socialist countries. And the reason was they thought they are going to introduce some ghostology into a scientific conference, because spirit means ghost. That was the idea. Spirit catching, planchet writing. This is what people understood by the word spirit. So spiritual is dangerous. We don't want. So it was thrown out. That was some years ago. Then they turned to India. You just give us a proper definition of spiritual which can be acceptable to a scientific community. That was the conference held by the government of India and several scientists, and they wanted me also to be present there. I explained for about 2 hours what spiritual means. Everybody was unanimous. This must be included. That's the main problem of modern man. After I left, they continued their deliberations, and the Director General of Health, Government of India, sent me a printed copy on this subject, man's spiritual health. That book is there. So it is good for us to know what is this thing called spiritual health. We have a body, and we are conscious of it as soon as we are born. So bodily life we understand. Then we have the intellectual dimension. So there is an intellectual life, a psychic mental life, that also we understand. But what is this strange thing called spiritual life? When you begin to ask this question, you get the answer, most rational, most convincing, from one source, the Vedanta. No other philosophy has studied this subject from the widest angle and at the deepest level as Vedanta, the Upanishads in very ancient times in India. And this great science, spirituality we call a science in India, like any other science, that has been cultivated throughout the ages in India, and you found the greatest representative of this science in the modern period in Sri Ramakrishna, who was a real scientist in this field of man's spiritual life. Through that study, we look around and find there are many. Through that study, we look around and find there are many other scientists of spiritual life in other parts of the world. Beautiful Christian scientists. Not I am using the word Christian scientist, not in that sense of a sect called Christian scientists. Scientists among the Christians who develop spirituality. Some of the great mystics of Christianity, the Catholic mystics. Similarly, Sufi mystics in Islam, some of the great Jewish mystics, they were scientists in the world of religion, in the world of spirituality. That we are able to appreciate all this when we understand the Vedantic approach to the spiritual life of man, which is thoroughly scientific, experiential, and verifiable. That is how we call it a science. Spiritual life is a verifiable experience. If A has done it, B can do it, C can do it, and reap the benefit of such a life. So we begin our life at a physical level. As a baby, we have a body, we act and react with the world around us. Very soon, a mental life also comes to the baby. Behind both, there is one particular phenomenon called hunger, physical hunger. At the bodily life, you have physical hunger, particularly for food and drink. Then we try to satisfy it. There is food for the hunger, to satisfy the hunger. In every baby you will find at the time of feeding, it weeps, and the mother must feed it. Then it is satisfied. So hunger and corresponding food. And very soon the baby also begins to experience another hunger, hunger for knowledge. So it seeks knowledge. First in a very elementary way from the parental environment, later on in a more concentrated way by going to school and college and university. Therefore there is intellectual hunger and there is intellectual food to satisfy that hunger. Between these two, we can see a specificity with regard to hunger and its food. The physical hunger cannot be satisfied by intellectual food. Intellectual hunger cannot be satisfied by physical food. Each wants its own food to satisfy the hunger. These two are understood, especially in modern times, very well. And we have every provision to satisfy physical hunger, all the sensate hungers we have, apart from merely food and drink, and then intellectual hunger. We have got plenty of knowledge, explosion of knowledge. Then what is this spiritual hunger? Is there such a thing as spiritual hunger? When you study this subject like a science, you find wonderful answers coming. All of you have come here, leaving aside many other engagements, many other pleasures and comforts. What is the impulse behind that coming here? You ask that question. Some sort of an impulse, not intellectual, not physical, something other than these two. Vedanta said, in every human being, there is a spiritual core that doesn't assert in the beginning. It asserts at a particular time when the body and mind becomes mature. Even some of the physical hungers do not mature in the beginning. They come in course of time. But the first physical hunger comes at birth itself. The baby gets that hunger for food. Other sensory hungers have to wait for a certain maturity of the physical system. Similarly, the spiritual hunger doesn't come in the very beginning. After we experience the various hungers and foods at the two levels, physical and intellectual, a certain stage comes when a strange hunger begins to assail the human being. That strange hunger, we call it spiritual, because it is not genetic, because it is not physical, because it is not merely intellectual. These two we have already fulfilled. But some strange hunger, in fact you can use the word not this hunger, a hunger which cannot be specified, and yet it is there. Something is missing. I have this, I have this, I have this, but something is missing. That's how you have a strange feeling when you become spiritually awakened the first time. Something is missing. I want to search for that something. We don't know what exactly it is. So this is how spiritual hunger sets in every human being at some time or the other. And at present in our civilization, this is a very tremendous experience, a spiritual hunger. We have everything around us, but a vacuum within, something that has not been fulfilled. That is the spiritual hunger, gnawing in the heart of people all over the world. Is there a spiritual food to satisfy spiritual hunger? If I am spiritually hungry and somebody gives me a good feast, nice food, I said, no, I don't want it. Somebody gives me intellectual food, plenty of knowledge and big books, no, I want something that can fulfill this hunger. Is there such a thing? Is there an object which can fulfill the spiritual hunger of man? What religions promise as God? Is God true? Is there such a reality called the divine? We are all full of doubt on this question in this modern period. In fact, God is dead is a big slogan we had in this country 15 years ago through a big article in the Time magazine. God is dead. Then what's the meaning of spiritual hunger? Go and plunge into the other hungers. Satisfy yourself with other foods. Why run after this wild goose chase? In fact, Julian Huxley, in one of his books, had said, a biologist, that particular God preached by theology appears to be the fast fading smile of a cosmic Cheshire cat. That's the language he has used. The fast fading smile of a cosmic Cheshire cat. So that God has no status today. And yet people are hungry for something other than physical, other than intellectual. It is there the great contribution of Vedanta comes in. Vedanta doesn't speak of a God sitting in the sky who one day created this world and we are going to meditate upon him because we don't know whether he exists there. Outside the cosmos, how can we know that such a person is there? So Vedanta never placed God outside the cosmos because that won't give us spiritual hunger. It can give us fear. A mighty God is sitting there. We are full of fear. That's all what we had till now. So fear has no place in the science of spirituality. When knowledge destroys fear, we have seen this world, we have studied this cosmos, we have thrown our searchlight everywhere. We don't find any God there. We can say that today, definitely. Even in humor, people put it when Khrushchev said in Russia, people say there is a God sitting in the sky, based on which people live a religious life. We wanted to know whether it is true. We send our astronauts first, go and search. The first batch returned said there is no God. We couldn't see anybody there. Khrushchev says we thought they were not quite sure, they didn't do it well. We sent a second set of astronauts. They also said there is no God there. So what has happened to man's spiritual life centered in a God sitting far away? That is the dilemma in which we are all living. There comes Vedanta to clear this dilemma. That this search for God here and there is an absolute futility. Search for God within you. There is some profound dimension within you. In this body-mind complex, there is a profound dimension. And this is not an information, not a mere opinion. It is a lived experience by the great sages. And they say you can also check up and verify for yourself. That is a wonderful idea, that this human being has a spiritual dimension over and above his physical and intellectual dimension. The depth dimension of man is essentially divine. That is the great Vedantic truth which came to this country through Swami Vivekananda at the Chicago Parliament of Religions. Ramarola mentions in his Life of Vivekananda, this was the main theme of all his speeches, both in the Parliament as well as outside for the 4 years he was here and in England, that there is a divine dimension in every one of us. That newborn baby has a physical dimension, has a mental dimension. We try to develop these two dimensions through food and education. It is a wonderful spiritual dimension, a divine spark hidden in every child. We have to help the child to manifest this also. Many hidden powers are being manifested as the child grows, but the greatest hidden power, hidden source of energy, is the spiritual energy hidden in every human child. There is a science about it, there's a technology by which it can be unfolded. This is how Vedanta places this subject before modern humanity. This is the greatest contribution of the Upanishads 4,000 years ago by very distinguished sages. They were great intellectuals. They had a scientific mind. They were in search of truth. They discovered that truth hidden in every human being, and they proclaimed it from the housetops. That is the great message of Vedanta, which Swamiji brought to the West, which is now finding responsive echoes from hearts all over the world, including the communist countries. Swamiji referred to my visit to several communist countries. I was treated with the greatest love and respect in all these countries like Czechoslovakia, Poland, Yugoslavia, Cuba, Soviet Russia. I was a guest of the government's concern. They organized my lectures and lecture at the Moscow State University on a subject which university prescribed for me, Vivekananda, his humanism. And when I spoke there, they could all follow simple English. No translation was needed. Scholars, scientists, deans, students, all were there. In the course of my lecture, I referred to various schools of humanism from the Greco-Roman times, modern scientific humanism. And I said, there is a uniqueness in Vivekananda's humanism. And that is because he saw a divine spark behind every human being. That humanism becomes strengthened by that spiritual awareness, that feeling of oneness with all, and that infinite love and compassion that come out of that experience of the divine. When I finished the lecture, questions came, and the most important question was from a professor who asked this question. Communist, Marxist, intellectual. Swami, you referred to a divine spark in every human being. It's a wonderful idea. I would like to know more about it. Then I spent 10 minutes, especially to deal with this particular subject. Similarly, in Berlin, in a public lecture, when I referred to this particular teaching of Vedanta, a German youth came forward to me. Swami, what you said is something wonderful. A divine spark in every human being. I have never heard of it, but it is so fascinating. The language he used, it is so fascinating. If it is true, it is something wonderful. That is the truth. In the Upanishads you will find they present this as the truth about man, the infinite, the immortal, the divine, stirring in the heart of man. And man doesn't know it. He must know it. That's the language. This human being has the organic capacity to investigate not only the physical universe and produce great sciences, but also into the very heart of man and discover this truth hidden within him. This is the double capacity in every human being. Modern civilization has exercised only the first capacity. It has completely neglected that second truth and that second capacity. That's what we have to achieve today, and more scientists are turning in this direction. What a beautiful idea, that it is a science like any other science, because it seeks truth. Truth that is there, you only uncover the truth. Truth is there, you remove the covering and you find the truth is there. What is the nature of that? In one of the Upanishads, this is expounded in the form of a dialogue between a father and his son, the teacher and the student. Father happens to be a good spiritual teacher, the son a good seeker. Shvetaketu, the name of the son, Aruni, father. So, a wonderful dialogue, very scientific, even taking illustrations and examples, and the father conveys to this son this profound truth, that behind this body-mind complex is a profound truth, infinite, immortal, which pervades the whole universe, but which can be realized by man in himself, because it is there at the back of his own ego, the back of his own consciousness. And the teacher finally tells this student and tells all of us, you are that, you are that. Tat-tvamasi, tat-tvamasi. It's a famous utterance, an equation in the Upanishad. Tat, tvam, asi. Tat is a very technical term. That immortal, divine truth. That's the meaning of tat, which is not near us just now, which is not in our consciousness just now. Therefore, a demonstrative pronoun that is mentioned there. When you realize it, you will call it this. At present it is far away. We say God is far away. In what sense? Not in a spatial sense. Hidden. It is not visible. Just like gold is lying below the earth, it is there, hidden, that's all. Will it ever remain hidden? No, we have got our technology to dig and bring the gold out. Similarly, here is a profound truth hidden in every being, not only human. In every being, this truth is hidden. But only the human being has the organic capacity to investigate and discover the truth. And so the Father puts it in this shortest formula, just like any physical scientific formula. Tattvamasi, tattvamasi. You are that. You are that. Aidadatmyam idam sarvam. Tat satyam. Sa atma. Tattvamasi shvetaketu. Hey Shvetaketu, that is the soul of everything in this universe. That is the truth. And you are that. You are that. You are not this tiny organic system. You are not even this intellectual apparatus within you. These are beautiful. But behind all of them, there is the true self of yours, which is infinite and immortal. Try to realize this truth. It's not a matter to believe, but a matter to experience. Realize this truth. Believing doesn't do any good to you. You must realize this truth for yourself. And so, from the time of the Upanishads, people took up this challenge and they found it is true. The more you experiment with it, the more it is true. This is a wonderful idea. Esha sarveshu bhuteshu gudho atma na prakashate drishyate tvagreya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhi. This comes in the third Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, third chapter. A very famous verse. Every word here is scientifically framed. This infinite Atman, he is present in every being. There's a language. But hidden. Udho. Not manifest to the senses. You can't see it with your eyes. You can't touch it with your hand. But it is hidden. Therefore, it is not manifest to everyday experience. How many things in a baby are lying hidden? How many energies are lying hidden? But as the baby grows physically, some of these physical possibilities become manifest. Sex awareness comes. 12, 13, 14, you find there. It was not there in the beginning. Similarly, many other possibilities lying hidden. But Vedanta said the greatest possibility lying hidden is this infinite Atman, the divine self, hidden in every human being. So, esha sarveshu bhuteshu, in all beings, mind you, animals, plants, and everything, the infinite is hidden. But they can't realize this truth. They are a function of nature. But man alone can take up this wonderful subject, investigate, discover the truth for oneself. So in the second line, the verse says, will it ever remain beyond our comprehension? Not at all. It will not always be hidden. You can discover what is hidden. That capacity you have, drishyate. How? By training this mind in a penetrating capacity. You have to penetrate so many obstacles. Then only you can realize this truth. Drishyate. Agriya buddhya. See the language used there. Agriya means pointed. Just like you take a iron, give it a nice point, then you can press it into walls here and there like a nail. If it is a blunt thing, you cannot go. Mind must be pointed. Agriya buddhya. How do you develop it? Sukshmaya. Very subtle the mind becomes. An average baby has got a very dull mind. Can't understand. Slowly it develops a subtle mind. It can understand subtle ideas, like abstract numbers. A child understands a little later. Beginning only concrete numbers and things it can understand. So the mind develops the capacity to grasp subtle, still more subtle, and finally the subtlest truth. That stage is this. When the mind becomes sufficiently pure and subtle and highly penetrating, it discovers this truth, penetrating all the mass of other elements that are obstructing the truth. Drishyate tvagriya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibihi. A scientist of today can easily utilize his own trained scientific mind to turn towards man, try to penetrate into man. And they are doing it. And they are coming slowly towards this profound truth which the sages discovered ages ago. Mind is a strange phenomenon which scientists are handling today. Many scientists have dismissed mind from their vocabulary. It is only the brain. There is no mind at all, because we can't see the mind. The brain we can see. So man is nothing but a brain, nothing but a nerve system, nothing but chemistry and physics. Such conclusions are there. We call it materialism today. As against it, other scientists find enough evidence to show that apart from this physical mechanism of the brain, there is something else. There is something else. We cannot verify it sensorily, but it is there without which these things cannot be understood. And so this subject of neurology, especially brain research, has yielded some clue to this truth. Here in Montreal Neurological Institute, we had a great neurologist who passed away 4 or 5 years ago, Wilder Penfield. He studied this subject. Is there anything other than the physical in man? Physical, we can all study, physiology, anatomy, many things we do. Earlier, Sir Charles Sherrington, the great British neurologist who really created modern neurology through his famous books, The Integrative Action of the Nervous System and Man on His Own Nature. There he speaks of mind, and he says, here is a wonderful phenomenon which is beyond sensory verification, and it will remain so forever. You can never sensorily verify the mind. That's the language he has used. Then comes Wilder Penfield with greater experimental techniques to deal with the subject, and the most important technique used was to keep a person fully conscious when brain surgery goes on. That is something wonderful, because the brain has no pain, so you can keep the man conscious. And the result of that he gives. I found I am talking to the person, he is responding to me, I am doing an operation on his own brain, something wonderful. That I am quoting a famous nuclear scientist who put this fact or datum in a beautiful language. We are both actors and spectators in the great drama of existence. 2 words, actor and spectator. In Sanskrit we have beautiful terms for this, scientific terms, karta, kartru, and sakshi. We are acting, we are watching the acting. Some tremendous fact comes into view. This is said by our Wilder Penfield. When I studied the reactions of the patient, I discovered that it is not only a telephone machine that is there, but a telephone operator behind the machine, the mind behind the brain. So his book is called The Nature of the Mind. So he found something beyond the physical, beyond the genetic constitution that we have. This is just the beginning of investigation into this profound truth which the sages discovered by inward penetration. They didn't use an operation table for this, but even through the physical study, by studying the physical system, the muscle, the bone, very, very solid substances, then you go inside, you find the nerve extremely subtle and yet full of energy. Then you go to the psyche, full of energy, not at all visible, not at all tangible, and yet it functions. This kind of study we are doing today, and I am sure it will converge to where the sages achieved through inward penetration. by deep meditation, taking the mind away from the body, from the senses, from the psychic waves, and discovering the infinite behind the finite. So that is the truth conveyed in this great verse, Esha sarveshu bhuteshu gupho. This Atman is hidden in every being. Because it is hidden is a challenge to you. If gold is hidden somewhere in America, how many people will rush towards it to appropriate that gold? The last century saw that wonderful experience here, gold rush. The price is very high. I am prepared to sacrifice everything, including my life. Many people died also in searching for gold. It's a pure material stuff apart from you. You can stake your life to achieve it. How much more we should to search for that profound dimension within, which when it starts beckoning to you, can you keep quiet? You will rush into it, sacrifice everything. That is the madness that comes when man becomes spiritually awakened. Ramakrishna told his disciple Vivekananda Narendra, when he asked him, when Ramakrishna was in a God-intoxicated, God-seeking state, forgetting everything around him, Narendra asked him, how did you feel in that experience? What is the nature of that experience which you passed through? And he gave a beautiful illustration. My dear boy, suppose there is a thief imprisoned in one room, and in the next room there is a bag of gold, and the thief knows there is a bag of gold. Can he sleep? Will he not try every method to break through and take possession of that gold? That's what happened to me. I knew that behind this shadow show of life there is a profound reality. I was fully convinced about it. I became restless with longing to achieve it. Here you have the highest level, what I referred to earlier, spiritual hunger, a real hunger. That hunger is slowly affecting more and more people in this modern age. We have plenty to satisfy physical hunger, plenty for intellectual hunger. In spite of all this, a nameless hunger is coming to humanity today. We call it spiritual because it is not genetically limited. It takes us beyond this genetic limitation. The spiritual is infinite. This genetic is limited here. But the real spiritual nature of man is infinite. It is one with all. In spiritual life, I am one with you, one with everybody. One infinite spiritual energy functioning through you and through the universe. That knowledge we are seeking today. Science is pointing in that direction. Many scientists are explicitly stating this truth. For example, man like Schrödinger, nuclear scientist, he says the profoundest truth about man is this Tattvamasi. You are that. You are that. Suppose I am depressed, I am weak, the doctor will come. Why are you depressed? That's not your true dimension. You are healthy and strong. Try to manifest your true nature. That's the language we use. So in all human weaknesses, we neglect one factor that is within, the source of infinite strength. That is the Atman, the divine, hidden in all beings. And today, there is a real search in this direction. Many other seekings we have done. The greatest search today is the search for the divine. So spiritual life looms large in human life today. What is that thing called spiritual life? What is its technique? How can we achieve it? Even scientists are eager to know this. After all, they may be great scientists in dealing with the world outside, but in this field they are babies. They are children. This profound mystery makes us feel we are like children before the world. This has been given expression too by a great English poet, Tennyson. I like his lines wonderfully. Before the mystery of the unknown in man and nature, what is man's reaction? And he answers, but what am I? An infant crying in the night, an infant crying for the light, and with no language but a cry. A baby has nothing but a cry. We are babies in the spiritual world. We want to grow, we want to unfold, we want to mature. That's called the spiritual life. That is on in the modern age. That's the most beautiful aspect of modern technological civilization. A dissatisfaction with what is achieved around. A seeking for something higher, deeper. This is said by the great Shankaracharya, the profoundest philosopher of India of the 8th century AD, in a famous hymn. That hymn ends with a question. Every verse ends with a question. It's a wonderful language. Tatak kim, tatak kim, tatak kim, tatak kim. What next? What next? What else? What else? You have health, you have beauty, you have power. Still the heart will ask you, what next? What else? That question will come. You have got all the achievements of life, great position and other enjoyments. Still the heart will ask this question, what else? What else? Until you get this answer, this is my true nature. Tat-tvamasi, I must experience for myself, then only all this questioning will go. I will be established in my own true nature, in my own true dimension. That is the spiritual quest which alone can lead to fulfillment. All values are spiritual. Even eating physical food, Vedanta sees as something spiritual. You are developing your body, you are evolving in a particular direction. So, from that point of view, everything is spiritual. It's a spiritual pilgrimage man is engaged in. No animal can have a spiritual pilgrimage, nor even a psychic pilgrimage. Its pilgrimage is encoded in its genetic system, and it only follows whatever the genetic code tells it. Man alone can go beyond the genetic code, beyond the genetic kind of dictation. He can be free. He can be free. And freedom is a spiritual value. You should always remember, freedom, even political freedom, is a spiritual value functioning at a particular level. Physical freedom is also a spiritual value functioning at that physical level. Somebody compresses my body, keeps it under bondage. I want to break through from it. What is that experience? It is a spiritual experience. All freedom is spiritual experience. But it doesn't end up merely with physical freedom, even intellectual freedom, or political freedom, or freedom from hunger. These are all freedoms, but the supreme freedom is the freedom of the spirit. I have realized my infinite nature. I am free, I am free, I am free. You can proclaim you are free. One of the poems of Vivekananda is this great song of freedom. What a beautiful idea. I am free. In Hindi, in Urdu they call it Azad. Repeat day and night, I am free, Vivekananda said. That freedom is a spiritual value. How many people are physically free, economically free, politically free, but spiritually unfree? Today we find plenty of people. In fact, there was an article in the American journal, most probably Reader's Digest wrote 20 years ago. He says, we think we are all free. Actually, we are not. In a highly technical civilization, you are not free. Everything is made for you. An advertisement says, this toothpaste is best, and you are immediately carried away by that advertisement. You go and purchase it. Are you free? Not at all. Somebody is manipulating you all the time. In a highly technical civilization, freedom is in jeopardy. Everything is manipulated for you. The Swami was telling me today that certain foodstuffs like bread, you must take only what is regulated by the government, the enriched food. You can't take anything else, you can't sell also. You are not free. Everything is given to you. So where is freedom? Freedom is a wonderful value. We all want to seek it. But there is more of regulation of my life by external forces than even we have in any kind of society. So it is a spiritual value. We can be unfree in a free political system. We can be free even in an unfree political system. I saw in India When India was unfree under the British, there were more free people. A man like Gandhi was a free-minded person, though politically he was not free. In free India, there are so many unfree people, petty-minded, small. Where is freedom there? So this wonderful idea of freedom is a spiritual value. We must realize that spiritual freedom, that will come only not by having more food, more clothing, more gadgets, not at all. Realizing our true nature, I am free, I am free. Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta Subhava, Paramatman. That's my true nature. Shankaracharya said, ever pure, ever free, ever illumined self. That is my true nature. I must realize it. It's not a matter for belief. In Christian teaching, if a teacher tells you Jesus died on the cross, you just believe he came for you, then everything is okay. Vedanta will never say so. By simply believing that somebody did something for you, you can't be free. In very many verses, Shankara explains it. If you are hungry, father and mother cannot eat on your behalf, you have to eat yourself. If you are carrying a heavy burden, somebody can help you. But in hunger, you must eat for yourself. In matter of truth, you have to experience it yourself. Vastu Swarupam, I am quoting a famous verse from one of his famous books, Viveka Chudamani, crushed jewel of discrimination. English translation is there in the bookstall. Shankara says there, Vastu Swarupam Spuda Vodha Chakshusha Svenaiva Vedyam Natu Panditena Chandra Swarupam Nija Chakshusaiva Jnadavyam Anyai Ravagamyate Kim. The nature of truth must be realized by every person for oneself, not through a proxy of another scholar on your behalf. The full moon rising in the eastern sky, if you want to enjoy it, go and look with your own eyes, then you will enjoy it. If somebody comes and describes it to you, you will never enjoy the beauty of that full moon. What a beautiful expression. Spirituality must be realized by everyone for oneself. Vedanta adds, that is the birthright of every human being. That is your true nature. Only we neglect it. That neglect must end. And today, compulsive circumstances make us understand this truth. We can't neglect our spiritual nature anymore. We have become lost in the crowd, lost in the collectivity, lost in the technical debris of civilization. We have to rescue ourselves from that condition. So spiritual life and spiritual striving, spiritual realization are not academic, are not merely for talking. It is a striving and realization. At no time in human history has this become such a profound possibility of realization by the largest number of people as today. Decline of institutional religion, creedal religion, increase of questioning, these are all beautiful things for spiritual development. That is why, because spirituality is the very soul of a science of religion, India never suppressed questioning. Here it is creed, so they suppressed all questioning. If it is spirituality, the more you question, the better for you. Truth is not afraid of questioning. Truth shines better by investigation, by questioning. As we say in our mystical books, gold shines better when it is put through fire. The more it passes through fire, the better for gold. Nothing is lost thereby. Similarly is truth. And so this spiritual life is approached like any other scientific investigation. This subject is very vast, so I can only compress it for a short talk, but much more is there, available in books, Vivekananda literature, Sri Ramakrishna's Gospel, my own books, Message of the Upanishads, Eternal Values for a Changing Society, but I put it a little in a compressed form this evening. Science studies physical nature and discovers energies hidden in a piece of matter. The primitive man knew only combustion energy. Even that much later in his life. In the beginning, we never knew how to use fire. And so, one day fire was discovered. Then we became the possessor of a tremendous source of energy. We call it combustion. Burn fuel, you get energy. For thousands of years, that continued. In the last century, we found another source of energy, much more immense. That's called electricity. Within matter, there is a little source of energy that's called electricity. That revolutionized modern civilization in the last century. And in this century, science has gone still deeper into matter. And we are having nuclear energy, infinite energy from the piece of matter. It's a wonderful development in the external side. Just imagine the sages of India taking up a subject similar to this, but a different category, taking up the subject of man. Here, that newborn baby, they peered into the eyes of that baby, I mean figuratively speaking, and discovered infinite resources of energy hidden in that baby. Not merely the little combustion energy in its muscle, not only its own intellectual energy deeper still, but they found infinite energy of the Atman hidden in that child. And they devised a technique for bringing out this energy, just like as we have devised our various reactors to bring out this nuclear energy in a piece of matter. It is there. They discovered various levels of energy in every human being, as science discovered various levels of energy in a piece of matter. Shankaracharya, commenting upon a great verse in that Kathopanishad, gives us a beautiful exposition of what you call the spectrum of energy resources hidden in every human being. The whole language is scientific, which you can check up and verify for yourself. I am quoting it in English, just the substance of what he has written. Human energy resources are organized on an ascending scale, see the language, on an ascending scale of subtlety, immensity, inwardness. 3 words: subtlety, immensity, inwardness. The Sanskrit is sukshma, mahantascha, pratyagatma bhutascha. The word subtle means sukshma in Sanskrit. Gross means sthula. Okay, this body is sthula. You can touch it. What you call, whatever yields to the sense of touch is called gross. So the body is gross. Then sukshma, subtle. Within this muscle, there is a tiny nerve fiber. Compared to the muscle, it is very small, more subtle in operation. Between these two, which contains more energy? The nerve fiber, not the muscle. Cut the muscle, nerve is dead. I mean, the muscle is dead. So what is sukshma or subtle contains more energy, immense. Mahantascha means that we have seen when energy is subtle, it is immense in range and power. Energy is gross, it is very ordinary. Within the human system, there is a gradation of energy. The most obvious energy is the muscle. And most people can see only that energy and say it is the greatest. I used to make fun sometimes when I had just children. If a picture of Mahatma Gandhi or Jesus is placed in front of you, and also some of these great wrestlers, boxers like Muhammad Ali, 2 pictures are there. Ask children, who is greater? All of them will say Muhammad Ali is greater. What can they understand of the greatness of Mahatma Gandhi or of Jesus Christ? Here is something visible, tangible. He is the greatest hero for all little children. That's right. You can think only in a gross way. But the muscle is great. But behind the muscle is a tiny nerve fiber that contains all the energy of that muscle. It is subtle but immense and inward, truly your own self. That's the language. Truly your own self. Compared to the nerve is truly your own self. What a wonderful idea. Go one step further. The psyche, not at all visible, not at all. Must rule, then we can really become spiritually great. All that is possible here, there's an asana, there's a regular food, and we have got my comfort, whatever comfort is necessary. We have time to study, meditate, meet with people, and good company is there.